Vice Chair Clark.
Present.
Excuse me. Commissioner Alshaus.
Here.
Commissioner Eisen.
Here.
Commissioner Erickson.
Here.
You have a quorum.
All right.
Okay, so we have the roll call. Do we have announcements and correspondence?
I don't have anything that we won't cover in our report.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm sending a message to our finance director. She wants to tune in. Actually, since I'm going to be presenting, Jonathan, would you mind sending her the link? Great, thank you.
Should we wait, Matthew?
No. She just wants to. She just wants to see it. So,
Okay.
All right. All right. So, Jonathan, do we have any public comment?
I have not received any, no.
Okay. And nobody raising their hand?
No.
Okay, then I will start with my report. So what I'm going to do tonight actually is Bob and myself and Karen have put together kind of a state of the city presentation, and we've been presenting it to different groups in the city. And I thought it might be a good format to share with you tonight. So if you give me just one moment, I'll pull it up on my screen and let you see this. And I apologize. I thought I was going to have a few more seconds before I had to present. But you know, as I'm doing this, I'll kind of narrate. So as you know, a lot has happened since the last time we have met, and a lot of it we had absolutely no inkling of at the time that that we had our last meeting. So this is all new. We weren't able to really plan for it, and we've kind of been doing all of this on the fly. I have lost my Zoom. I apologize. Can you see me?
Yes.
It is so strange. I can't pull up my Zoom.
Yes, we can see you, Matthew, and hear you. So
Odd.
I'm not
keep
sure.
talking.
The host.
Here we go.
Matthew, are you the host?
I'm not the host, but I found it. I use a Mac, and 90% of the time I love using my Mac, but occasionally with multiple screens, it gets a little screwy. So, Jonathan, I'm disabled from being able to share my screen. Are you able to?
How can I give you that permission?
I'm not sure. But I think we'll run into the same problem when Maria wants to make her presentation. So I'm not going to show my slides. I will just make my presentation, and Jonathan, you got a little bit of time to work it out for Maria. So
I made you the host. See if that. Maybe
okay. Let's see if that works now. Oh, cool. Perfect. Thank you. All right. You see my presentation now?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yes.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
I really apologize for that. The thing with the Zoom is you never know how things are going to work until it's live. So I am going to share this presentation with you, and it is not letting me move through my slides either. Okay, I'm done with this. I'm going to stop my share, and I'm just going to talk.
Okay.
Oh, gosh. Okay. So in the last 3 months, basically, since the shelter-in-place orders were announced and everything changed in people's lives, we've moved virtually all of our staff to remote work, The only people that are out in the field are our public works maintenance staff, who continue to do their regular duties, as well as lots of responses to the community. And as you can imagine, over the last 3 months, the needs and the asks of the community have been varying and changing on a daily basis. But they have just continued to be out there and doing their work and maintaining our facilities and managing everything that they can. Our planning staff continue to process permits and to work with the community to keep projects moving forward. There was a period of time where construction was not allowed, and so planning and building worked really hard with folks to get projects ready to go so that when construction reopened, which was about a month ago, projects were able to start moving forward very quickly. They've continued to make changes to how they operate and will for the foreseeable future. There's work going on at City Hall right now to make sure that there's safe spaces for people to work when we do return to our workspaces, safe spaces to meet with the public. If you go by City Hall, you'll notice some big metal bollards in our parking lot, and those are lockable plan delivery stations where people can actually deliver plans for projects. It's touchless now. People deliver them, our staff comes out, picks them up, and can review them, and that's all done without contact between individuals. Our finance team has continued to work on paying bills, making payroll, and really importantly, dealing with the forecast financially and our budget, which will be presented to the council, the final draft next Tuesday for approval. They approved it in principle last week, and we'll be approving a final budget next week. So it's incredible that they've been able to continue their work under the constraints that we're under. Those of us in the city manager's office have been working hard on a variety of projects. Most of the work we've done, obviously, has been in response to the pandemic and coordinating with other agencies and keeping track of the needs of the community and addressing those needs as they come along. So for a lot of us, our work is very different than it was before the pandemic. For recreation, of course, everything has changed. Our facilities have been closed for several months now. For a period of time, our parks were completely closed. The parks have reopened, but different portions of them remain closed. Dog parks are still closed under the county order. We have our skate park open now, but our indoor facilities are closed. Playgrounds are still closed. And so Rec has taken on a variety of projects. They created a virtual recreation site, which has been really well received. It gave people an opportunity to recreate from the comfort of their own home virtually, and that's been a great resource for the community. We've had a lot of important public safety and COVID response events in our facilities that recreation has led, and you'll get more details from Eddie later on in his report. But some really important food drives, food distributions that are happening on a weekly basis now, blood drives, Census. We've had a Census event there this week. So really great work coming from our rec team. And then our communications team, I'm sure all of you have seen the work that they've been doing. Their workload has quadrupled during this time period, with all the need for communicating information to the community, working with the county and other agencies. It's been incredible the work that they've done, and lots of our staff, including members of our recreation team and others, have jumped in to help them with those communications efforts because that work has been so overwhelming. We've seen some really great new things come from our communications team. We now have weekly special e-news releases, daily updates on COVID, weekly letters from the mayor, which have been really well received, multiple contests, art contests. Our upcoming budget the cover of that budget will be one of the winners of our art contest from one of our kids in our community. It's a really beautiful drawing, and we're excited to see that on the cover of the budget. So it's been an interesting 3 months, and I will say all of us have had to learn to do things in different ways and do different things, be really flexible and fluid in the work that we do. But I think we've really met the challenge and responded to the community well. There have been some significant impacts to the city. I'm sure you've heard. the loss of TOT, transient occupancy tax is the #1 revenue source for the city. And with the shelter-in-place orders for several months, TOT became a trickle because the hotels were either closed or not having very many guests. Sales tax has also taken some hits with shopping affected and people's ability to go out and patronize some of the stores in our community. And so this has led to significant revenue reductions for the city, both this fiscal year, which ends at the end of this month, and we're projecting them into the next fiscal year and probably the year after that even. We think that now that we're in a full-blown recession, it's going to take time for the economy to recover, especially our economy, because of our reliance on visitors and tourism and sectors that have been closed for several months now. To get specific, this year we projected an 18% shortfall of revenues over our budget, which means we've had to cut staffing. We've lost six positions in this fiscal year. We've cut most of our contract services. We've postponed many of our capital projects and cut a lot of other expenses. But we will finish this fiscal year on a balanced budget without the expenditure of any of our reserves.
Wow.
As we go into the next fiscal year, we're projecting about a 25% revenue shortfall for the entire year. Many of the cuts we're making in this fiscal year will carry forward into next year and help us cope with those revenue shortfalls. And then we expect we'll be making expenditures out of some of our reserves. And our council had a lot of foresight. We've had 10 years of growth, 10 years of recovery since the city was in real dire straits. And a lot of great things have happened. Obviously, the library was built during that time. A lot of really important projects have moved forward. Parks have been renovated, and roads are in better condition than I've ever seen them. But amidst all of that, our council also started putting money aside for exactly this type of situation. We have what's called an economic uncertainty reserve, which is not something you have to have. Everybody has operating reserves. And in our city, we hold 30% of our operating budget, annual operating budget in reserves, which is more than most cities have. But as a small city with such volatile revenue sources, we just have always felt like we needed to have a strong reserve. And then this economic uncertainty reserve was put aside to help us smooth our way through a recession or some other type of emergency. And here we are. And so hopefully we'll be able to continue forward and continue to provide really great services to the community and get through this recession and back into recovery and then start rebuilding those reserves. So when we look at our road ahead, the federal, state, and county government have really focused their efforts on addressing health, most importantly, and then the really high-level financial impacts of COVID, as well as the federal government has provided some support to individuals as well. Local governments, city governments have not received much support, and that's okay. There's only so much money to go around. But that means that we as a city really need to continue to be effective and self-reliant in addressing our own local needs and finding ways to support ourselves. So there's a great slide I wanted to show you, but in a recent training that some of our staff went to kind of understand where the economy is headed, there was a section on travel, because travel is one of the main sectors that's been impacted by coronavirus and the recession. And of course, that hits home for us because that really impacts the city and its budget. And some slides were presented based on a survey that was done of a variety of Americans and what their plans were moving forward. And one of the most telling things that they reported on was what people described as their first trip after the pandemic. People have this pent-up need to travel. And now the weather's getting warm. People have been at home for a long time. They want to go on vacation. And travel overseas, I think, is going to take time. People are afraid to fly. They're afraid to go to unfamiliar places. They're afraid if they go overseas and there's a second pandemic, they could get stuck in another country. And so people are not planning to travel very far, and they're not planning to travel via air for the time being. And 38% of the people that they surveyed said that beach destinations and resorts are where they're going to take their first trip. And that speaks well for us because that's what we have. We're a beach destination and we have resorts. The second largest number of responses, another 30%, said small towns, villages, or rural destinations and attractions. So 70% of the respondents said they're coming to Half Moon Bay. They're either going to stay in a fancy hotel or they're just going to come here and enjoy the rural coastside. So we think we're well positioned to at least rebound from this. And we're working really closely with the hotels, and they're really gearing up and planning for a recovery here, at least a short-term recovery to help them get back on their feet. We expect that long-term we will not be where we were before for at least a couple of years. But the idea is that as things reopen and people start to travel, this is the kind of location they're going to want to come to. So there's going to be a big focus on marketing the coast side. The coast is clear is the slogan that Crystalline has developed and is working with the other agencies on. We're not putting it out there yet because the coast is not clear yet, but when it is, that's going to be the message. There'll be a lot of harmony in the messaging from our businesses, our restaurants, our hotels, and the city to really draw in those visitors in a way that can help bring back our economy. But what that also means is as the city looks at opportunities to take advantage of this, one of the things that we started exploring last year after our budget hearings last year under the direction of the council was additional revenue sources, potentially a tax measure. And so over the last year, we've been working with consultants, we've been working with the chamber and the hotel BID, and we believe that an increase in our TOT here locally in Half Moon Bay is the most likely way for us to increase our revenues, to offset the impacts of tourism here on the coast. And so it's not been decided yet, but the council is considering putting an item on the November ballot to increase TOT here in Half Moon Bay, and then funnel that money back into the community towards recovery and economic development efforts. Prior to the pandemic and prior to our listening sessions with the council this year, so going back to December and January, we surveyed the community on what was important to them and how they felt about local government. And a lot of positive responses, a lot of support for our city council and the work that our commissions and committees are doing. And some of the top areas that the community really wanted us to focus on was reducing local traffic congestion, protecting natural areas and open spaces, maintaining the city's financial stability, maintaining sheriff emergency response times, our local quality of life, neighborhood serving businesses and gathering places, and taking care of our infrastructure and providing affordable housing. We surveyed after, or kind of in the middle of the pandemic, to see, did people's sentiments change? And they did slightly change. The top responses we got in the last couple of months from the community included preparing for a medical or catastrophic emergency. That's just at the forefront of everybody's minds, and how quickly things can change. So the better prepared we are for a future emergency, the happier our community is going to be. Continuing to keep our public places healthy, safe, and clean, maintaining the city's financial stability throughout the recovery from COVID, continuing to support our local businesses and families through recovery, and then again, making sure that we have affordable housing for our community. So in March of this year, we held our city council priority setting session, and they developed their annual priority list. And the priority list this year didn't change. Affordable housing, emergency preparedness, traffic and transportation demand management, and sustainability remain council priorities with different focuses in the work plan, especially now that we've been through or we're in the middle of this COVID and we expect to be in recovery for a while. So the focuses of those 4 areas are much more geared towards 1, recovery, and 2, projects and programs that can be completed by existing city staff, not using contracted resources, and also just recognizing the limited resources that we have here in the city for the next couple of years. The 5th priority last year was the minimum wage ordinance, which passed earlier this year and is set to go effect in January of 2021, and that would be an increase to $15 an hour. So that was removed from the priority list for the coming fiscal year and replaced prior to the pandemic with economic development, a real focus on downtown vitality and downtown, making the downtown a really great place for people to gather and for our businesses to thrive. That has shifted in our work plan going forward to much more focus on recovery and resiliency and diversification of our economy here. We've talked about it for a long time, how dangerous it was to rely on tourism and sales tax as our primary revenue sources, and now we see why. And so one of the things we're going to be doing is developing and putting together an economic recovery task force, which will be a group of business and nonprofit and individual leaders in the community that will work together for at least a year or two to really look at what our strengths and weaknesses and opportunities are on the coast side, look at recovery, resiliency, and diversification strategies, pursue grant funding, and then really look at ways short-term and long-term to help the community stabilize from the pandemic. We will also continue to focus on town center planning, the downtown. We have a grant that will help pay for those efforts, and it really ties into the work that our community development department's doing with the local coastal land use plan. So those will be the new focuses this year for the city. We are hopeful to hear from the community more as we continue to develop our plans and a recovery plan. And if people go to our website, it's www.hmbcity.com/join the conversation. That's an opportunity for people to continue to respond to that community survey and talk about what's important to them now, especially in light of what's gone on in the last few months. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions on anything in that presentation or anything else that the city's been doing over the last 3 months or what our plans are as we move into recovery.
Matthew, I don't know if this is the right time, but one of the things I'd like to talk about tonight, so I'm not sure if this is the timing to do it, is the 4th of July.
Okay.
So should that be later? Should we launch into this right now? Or
I think it's probably a little, just from an appropriate standpoint on the agenda, talk about it during Eddie's presentation on recreation and what our plans are moving forward.
Okay.
And there are some really good things to talk about there, so I'm glad you brought that up.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Okay, well, that is my report. And then Eddie will cover recreation updates under item 5B. So John, if you're ready, you can talk about the master plan implementation update.
Sure. Hello all, nice to see you.
Hi, John.
So I guess I'll start with the disappointing on a couple of fronts and try to finish with a bang on the good side. The disappointing is that we, as a result of the COVID issues and related budget constraints, had to put a hold on work with the Poplar Gateways plan. So we have given notice to the consultants, at least an 8-month delay. We are hoping that in conjunction with the budget, mid-year budget review and hopefully improvements on the local budget, and that we will be able to renew that effort and move forward and get the EIR, the Environmental Impact Report, prepared and finalized. We were, at least in our mind, at a good point. There really had been very little work done at that point on the biological work and on the EIR itself as a document. And further, we were struggling with the issues of, we were getting kind of late in the season for some of the biological report work to be done, the wetlands delineation. So in some ways, this has provided the opportunity to hopefully be able to initiate this work at a better time and commence the work back at or near this time next year or earlier, perhaps, hopefully. So that's what's going on there. I would say the good part of that is the council and the staff concluded that we really could not wait out the Poplar Gateways plan approval and process to move forward with fixing and basically replacing what we call the parallel trail, the little path and trail that runs from Railroad to the coastal trail along Poplar. And so we have that on the capital improvement list for this year, and we will be working on design and bidding and construction of that project. So I think that'll be a positive for a lot of folks. We know that trail and that pathway is really deteriorating and really beyond the point of just quick fixes and needs to be replaced. So that's the balancing point on that. We are also at this point in communication with the vendor and trying to get touchless service at the Poplar parking lot. And so you can, by app, pay for parking. I thought we were on a pathway to that and received notice that there might be a glitch because our machine is about 3 years old. So now it's old technology. So, I don't know what I am if that's old and old technology. I'm fast approaching ancient, I guess, on those terms. But we'll continue to work, and I'm confident that we'll be able to finish that effort at some point in the near future. I think we'll find a way. But that's something that the mayor and the council had asked us to do, and as part of the COVID response. So that I hope next time we'll be able to announce is done. We also, as part of the COVID reductions, had to put on hold the replacement work of Frenchman's Creek Park play equipment. There's the good news and the bad news. The good news is we own the equipment. That equipment is at the yard, and so that's not an issue. The bad part is that we had to put on hold the actual construction work, including the rubberized surface and new concrete and installation of that. So again, our hope is that the budget conditions will improve enough for us to look at reallocating funds to that project and move forward. And my conversations with some of the most active folks out there is they do understand the conditions and the circumstances and are understanding. I will not say that they're happy, but they are understanding and accepting of that. And again, the good news is half the cost has already been invested. We own it equipment-wise, and so we can just then work toward it. The problem and the challenge is that this is not work that we can do in-house. It's not work that our maintenance crew can do. It's specialized work with the rubberized surface. So this isn't something, even if we had the crew capacity to deal with, we don't have the actual capabilities to do the work and deal with it. So, so I'll hit some of the good points here. Obviously, I had a chance to drive by Ocean View Park yesterday, first time in a while, and see the turf growing in. I hope all of you have been able to get by at some point or another. There are a few patches. We ended up, because we had the time and the closure of the parks and everything with that deal, to actually seed it and save quite a bit of money on seeding rather than turfing. And it's not as pretty, but it works. It also usually takes better than actually the turf and everything that deal, and it's looking great. And we were just talking about potentially in the next 2 to 3 weeks having an official grand opening there, because we never did that, and that was I think a great project. My staff, kudos to them. Everybody that plugged into that deal, the contractor Andrini Brothers did, I think, a great job. My crew did a great job in there stepping in. Rec came in and helped us with that. You guys supported the project throughout and helped us, and the council ultimately funded it. So I think a great project, great story that we've all kind of forgotten about a little bit, I think, in the midst of all of this chaos. We actually had a groundbreaking, or not a groundbreaking, but a ribbon cutting scheduled, and was right in the midst of our shutdown with COVID. And then obviously you were talking a little bit about it. I think for perhaps one of the most exciting projects that we've completed, and one of the least expensive projects, which is kind of exciting too, which is the Poplar vertical access. And across the board, very, very happy people, locals and non-locals alike. And I'm ecstatic to have been able to be just a part of that solution and that fix there. My staff did, from top to bottom, did an exceptional job, I think, of getting an interesting design, dealing with that. We worked through bids that did not get any official bids, to basically negotiating with a contractor that we'd worked with before on Seymour Ditch to come in during the COVID closure and to deliver that project about 2 weeks ahead of schedule, and certainly right at budget. So again, I think that's something that we're very proud of, and the community should be very happy with. And I think it was mentioned we are going to be doing next Monday at 3:30, Jonathan, the groundbreaking, or not groundbreaking, the ribbon cutting. We usually do groundbreaking, and we couldn't do that, so we're going to do the ribbon cutting. So we're excited about that, and we'll keep our social distance, but we are going to do that in person and there at the Bluff, and go from there. So we're always happy to see any and all of you 6 feet away from us with masks on, please. So those are pretty much the highlights. I will, Matthew hit the challenges and issues on a big picture perspective. Eddie's going to talk about what does it look like with recreation, with COVID and layoffs. I am, and my staff are struggling. We had one position frozen that was vacant. We were writing the offer letter to someone. That's how close we were within 2 weeks of bringing them on, and we had to shut that down. And then ultimately, as a result of the budget issues, we laid off one of our maintenance workers. So we have built some great expectations, I think, within the community in terms of the park's maintenance, the dog park maintenance from, the Frenchman Creek, every bit of our maintenance effort out there, the red curbs, all the things that people love and want us to be doing. But I would be remiss if I did not remind folks that we are down 2 full-time staffers that were doing that work over the last year plus. And we're just not going to be able to do everything that we were able to do, and we're not going to be doing any and all of that as quickly as we were able to do it in the last year. That doesn't mean we won't do our job, and our guys aren't going to work their tails off doing that, and they will do that. But it's just resetting and reestablishing expectations a bit is my greatest challenge for the coming year, I think, when it comes to maintenance. And I'm challenged because I want to say I can do it, and we can do it, and my staff can do it. What I'm having to change that position is we can do it, but it'll be in time and in priority with everything else we have to deal with. And I know that may not be the answer that community members want, may not be what you want, may not be ultimately what the council and mayor wish to have me answer to, but and or the city manager, frankly, to that. But I've been accused of being brutally honest, and I'll take that as a good thing. But it's a double-edged sword, I understand. But I just, again, for me tonight was really reestablishing, resetting expectations when it comes to some of the maintenance efforts and issues out there. I'm done.
Comments? Well, John, I have high expectations of you. This is the one area that I was like, I really did not want to see compromised, which is maintenance, because the town, in order to, first of all, to be a town that is going to be attractive to tourists who we need to have come back in order to bring us back to financial, health again. We need a town that continues to look good, that's clean, that's being maintained, that doesn't look like it's going to hell. And that's your department, and I'm expecting you. You might have to get out there. I'm expecting things from you, John. That's the bottom line.
And I do get out there, and I actually see the need to probably get out there, and not necessarily because I'm that helpful, but I think the one thing about the city staff here is that no one asks anybody to do something that they aren't able to, willing to, and capable of doing. So that's where we go, and I think as an organization we're good at that. But we can only do what we can do, and still with that. So again, we're going to do our jobs, and we've been getting out there. The COVID just sucked hours and hours from us moving around signs, putting new signs up, and dealing with it. So we've gotten behind in just our regular spring cleaning and spring maintenance work, weeds, the deals. I would also say this is that we, as a city, have gone, at least for the time being, we have gone Roundup free. And one of which from an environmental perspective is fabulous.
Absolutely.
From a maintenance perspective, it is the worst thing going. Because
it makes more work. There's no question about it.
Absolutely more labor intensive, and I'm going to tell you along Poplar.
But at least those people who are working are not breathing in Roundup and all that crap. So at least it's a healthy work environment. And
the the reptilian are not impacted by it, and other things, but. Things aren't going to look as clean and neat as they have in years past, simply because we are not applying Roundup to those areas that we otherwise would have and done so. And so we're also balancing that out. So this is we're going to do our job, and we're moving forward with it. But again, those are also expectations, and we haven't. This is really the first public statement that we've made about the Roundup. We stopped a year ago, but we had not, really gone public with that. We were evaluating where we were and where we're going with it, and I think that the council's made it clear that they want us to go there, and we're just voluntarily making it work and doing that. And we will ultimately come to the council with more of a policy on a lot of our pesticides and insecticides and herbicides usage as a broader policy under sustainability. But we've voluntarily done that. But there are, as I said, there are implications and ramifications for doing that, and it does increase our workload and challenges down the road, and we won't be able to get to things and make them look as neat and orderly as they have in the last several years, maybe.
Thank you, John. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, because I'm not on the video, apparently. You can't see me.
Are you on a computer, Pat?
No, I'm on my cell phone.
Oh.
But I go to quite a few meetings and I haven't had an issue. So anyway, just to FYI, John, I wanted to tell you, it's always good hearing you. And your report it's probably one of the most uplifting of any report that we get, that stuff has happened and there is a focus, because this is really trying times. And I'm just glad, I'm glad I live here. And I was very impressed on Sunday. I met my children at San Benito House, and the line was way down the street. It brought back memories of 3 months ago. And it was really, it was touching. And I ended up walking down Main Street, did a circle, and it was nice to see people and what some of the restaurants are doing to, have food available and people not feeling like they're, in a locked state. So I don't think anybody has any idea of how this was impacting us. So anyway, thank you.
Hey, Chair, if I could,
Yes.
just for the community and for the board or for the commissioners, one of the trade-offs of also going to primarily takeout or only takeout is all the
Garbage. Yes.
And,
yeah.
So this is also adding to our challenges as well. So just to put that out there, we are working with Republic to probably put out some large, the 96-gallon rollers, carts out on the main street at some of the, at some of the corners down through there to provide some overflow for folks to use and deal with it. So Matthew's been leading that charge with the downtown group and the chamber and doing a great job, and Karen and all the crew. But I just would be remiss if I didn't mention that. That we know, and we've got 7-day-a-week service out there. We have Saturday, Sunday, one of our staffers out on Saturdays and Sundays now through August, and that it is a huge challenge dealing with that litter, debris, and garbage level that we've never seen before, and hopefully stop seeing at some point in the future.
John, if I could, please, I'm happy to hear that. Did you mention, or did I miss it? Is there a time associated with Monday's ribbon cutting for the Poplar stairs?
3:30, I believe, is what, 3:15 or 3:30?
No, 3:30. It's 3:30.
3:30. Okay, so that's so.
Or so. Yeah.
So that's good. I would, I would suggest that maybe the Ocean View Park, to try to stretch us out for the next ribbon cutting. So that this way, at least the perception is, okay, the city is we're still doing things. It's happening, moving forward with various things still. And there are benefits going to people who are living here.
Yep.
Community.
We're not going to jam that up, but I just want to let you know that we think that was, enough of an improvement, and the community never really got a chance to sort of.
Oh no, it definitely deserves. Remember the conversation. More and more ribbon cutting. That's what we want. That's right.
It's coming.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, I'm here.
There's Pat.
Hey,
there you are.
Yay. Different experience, huh? So anyway, okay. So we will be there, everyone.
I'll be there.
At 3:30 Monday. We'll get an email, right, Jonathan? So be reminded. I look forward to seeing everyone in person. Anyway, thanks again, John.
No hugs.
Oh, no. No, we do the elbow.
Yeah, I know that's gonna be the hardest thing for you.
Oh my, I'll tell you, it kills me. It kills me. But anything to stay healthy. So yep. Okay, so who's next up? So we're up to
The Friends.
Friends? Okay, perfect.
And
That's what I
I'll
thought.
really
I thought it
quickly.
was Eddie.
No, next up is an
Eddie's
update from the
next.
Friends.
Oh, okay.
Eddie's
So
after.
I wanted to just give everybody a heads up and
Yes.
welcome Maria. Maria is the new executive director of the Friends. A couple months now, I guess.
Yeah,
maybe
I
like 4 or
started in
5 months.
January.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
She comes with a lot of experience. I hopefully she'll share some of that with us today. We've got other members of the Friends tuned in as viewers of
Good.
this. But you know, Maria's part of the team. We're going to be
Yep.
working really closely with her going forward, and we're excited to have her and hear her report tonight. So welcome, Maria. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Matthew. Yeah, I'm very excited. Like he said, I've been here since January now. Kind of getting my feet wet still, but figuring things out and having a really good time. We have an amazing board, and I'm going to attempt to share my screen, and we'll see if I can show you the video that I'm hoping to show you tonight. So. Okay, I think it worked. Can you guys see it?
Yes.
Excellent. All right. Can you still see it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, excellent. Okay, so I just wanted to give you kind of a quick update of we've been doing some great things. Like I said, I came in, I'm trying to figure out the lay of the land. I know we've had a number of board meetings now. I have some fabulous people watching as well right now, so they'll chime in, I'm sure, if I miss anything. But I wanted to give you a quick update about Coastside Gives, because I know all of you probably heard a little bit about it here and there, or maybe you've heard a lot about it, but the Coast, it was amazing. It was an amazing day. We raised $1 million for nonprofits on the Coast on that day, or, you know, leading up to that day and that day. We, as the Friends of Half Moon Bay Parks and Recreation, raised approximately 60% more than the goal we were to hope to hit. We won 3 grants from the Mavericks Community Foundation. We had 2 donors create a matching gift challenge. So they created some matching gift challenges, which was great. Our priority really, because of everything that was going on, was really to engage people and to have people join as members. And that is what we did. It was amazing. And our social media engagement was unbelievable. We reached 4,000 people with some of our posts. And leading up to it, I did every sponsor I did a post about. It was just really powerful to watch, and people are still sharing my posts from that day. I mean, I did post my kid, I'll be honest, and in a pool, and people kind of went nuts, you know, on why we needed the things that we were all doing. So it was great. Let's see if I can get this to run. We did, in leading up to it, create a video. And I'm actually hoping, hint, hint, Pat, that I can still get you to do one too. Our goal
I did one.
but another one, I mean.
Oh, okay.
Another one, I'm hoping.
Okay.
But we really want to be aligning more and more with everything you guys are doing and helping to fundraise more and more for what we are, what you guys are doing, and aligning with things that you're doing. But anyway, so I just want to show you this video quickly. Oh, now something just happened. It did not work. Let's see if it get it to work. Here we go.
Hi, my name is Shazad Pantera. I'm the president and one of the founders of Friends of Half Moon Bay Parks and Recreation. Many of you will remember the time when we had to shut down our city's recreation department and our police department. Under the guidance of the City Council, this organization was formed to serve as the nonprofit arm to the city of Half Moon Bay. With programs like Adopt a Park and Concert in the Park, we were able to help maintain our parks and build community, be a part of some wonderful projects like McFeature Plaza and the new skate park. We're asking for your help once again. Please give this year to us during Coastside Gives, and go to www.hmbparks.org to become a friend for $25 a year. We're working on some exciting new projects, like a new community aquatic center.
Okay. So other things that are going on. So Coastside Gives was fantastic. I am a fundraiser. I should have started with that. I have a lot of fundraising experience. So I'm actually very excited to be involved with friends to help raise money. And so, we really are rethinking things. We're gonna work with you guys to come up with some policies on things and to align with different things that are going on. Right now, some of the big things that we've been working on is bringing on new board members, because we have had, when I joined, we had a board of 8, and we need many more people involved. And we have a lot of people that are interested. So just putting out messages, which is what we've been doing on a regular basis, we have people responding and saying, oh, I'd like to be on the board. I want more information. So we're having a lot of conversations right now with people, and we're bringing new people on. Again, we met, Matthew and I talked as well, but we met with everyone in February and talked about priorities. And so we are, on our fundraising, on our webpage now, it's all been updated. We have the 4 priorities we talked about for fundraising right now. We know a lot of these things. This is all before COVID-19. We're just going to keep rolling with it and see how things go. Fundraising is not big gifts right now, is not the big push. But we're just trying to build our base. Really right now, building our membership up so that when we're really ready to go after big things, we have a strong base of people. We've been setting up policies like gift processing policies and things. And we as an organization are setting up a new database right now. We actually just are getting an organization to donate a database to us on the software, which is very exciting. We are looking for grant opportunities that might be a good fit for things going on right now. And so we are open and happy to help go after things to support what Park and Rec needs. We are reimagining all of our events. We have some brainstorming sessions going on right now. As you all probably know, just because I know we've talked about these things in the past, we were doing a lot of pool events at restaurants. And that is just not something we can do right this second. Or in the near future. So we are really reimagining, looking at virtual ideas, and we'll be kind of rolling out some new things in the very near future. We're really going to continue pushing our membership drive, and we want to continue to partner and support, like I already said, city needs whenever we can. So that's my quick update for the evening. Again, my counterparts may have things they want to add in, but that is... I'm going to stop sharing my screen now.
Maria, can I ask a question?
Of course.
Okay, so I have 2 questions. Number 1 is, what was the actual amount you guys raised through Coastside Gives?
So we raised just under $8,000.
Okay, and the second question is, are you planning to give a percentage of that to the Rollins Scholarship Fund? And I ask because in previous partnerships, we have had your group give a percentage to the Rollins Scholarship Fund.
That has not been discussed yet by the board. So I can bring that to the board and ask their thoughts on that. They are really right now, we're trying to build up our general operations, like our general funds operations, so that we can, and then we're actually trying to have an allocation policy created so that we have a determined allocation of how much would go towards the pool fund that we've been raising money for however long they've been raising money for, a couple of years, how much money would go to the general operations. So the board actually started that conversation this last meeting we just had, and then we're gonna revisit again in July. So I can bring that up in July at the July meeting and ask their thoughts. I didn't realize that was happening. Do you know what the percentage was in the past?
I think it was a few $100. It is
Yeah,
the director of Parks and Recreation on the call. Is Eddie here?
I'm here.
Okay, so Eddie knows.
Well, as far as I understood, what happened in the past was not a determined percentage amount that was discussed with Friends of Parks and Rec. But that discussion I thought was going to be happening. I thought it already happened. It sounds like it never happened.
Well, let's hear from Eddie.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's never been a discussion I've been a part of. the last donation we got for the Raleigh Rice Scholarship Fund from the Friends was $1,000 donation. And I think that might have been a percentage of a larger donation that you received, but it was never a predetermined amount that we were going to be given.
Okay.
Okay.
And Sharzad is here. I don't know if she wants to comment on that. Or not. It's fine. But again, I can bring it to the board.
When, Maria, when is your next board meeting?
July 1st. It's the Wednesday, the first Wednesday of every month.
Right.
1 second. Actually, Sharzad.
Sharzad's.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm just going to jump in again in the meantime.
Sure.
Because, you know, in a previous meeting when we actually did physically meet, I remember that we had agreed, Matthew and Eddie, that you guys were going to be meeting with the Friends of Parks and Rec, and we're going to come up with some kind of formula that that would be something that everyone's agreed to moving forward, so that we can start getting contributions as the Friends of Parks and Rec are representing themselves as an arm of the city. We need to have a clear agreement. That's what we had all discussed, a clear agreement how this is going to work, because otherwise it's a false representation and it doesn't feel good. And I know that all my co-commissioners, we've discussed this. It doesn't feel good to us to keep moving forward like this without an agreement.
Yeah, and we did meet, gosh, it was probably February or March.
February.
And
Yeah.
we talked about it. And then, of course, all the things that happened.
Right.
And it certainly didn't jump to the front of the list. So I think July 1st, maybe we can participate in your meeting and have a discussion about it with your
We'd
group.
love to have you anytime you'd like. We can definitely, and actually, just to clarify, we did meet, we did talk about, or just to add, I should say, we did meet, we talked about it. We actually started a draft MOU, which is what I think you're talking about. And again, everything kind of was put on hold. And we started another draft of one, just clarifying the relationship. But I think, we should sit down and talk about it again. And, again, I have a draft, but I think we should chat about it more.
Yeah, we need to,
totally agree.
Yeah, Marla, we just need to get a good working thing going so that everyone's together, rather than feeling like we're not on board. We're not all on board.
Right. And I think that we agree, and we also want it, and it's a partnership because all the leadership changes. Our board is going to change. We're going to add new people. We want it to be, Friends feels the same way. We want it to be clear. We want it to be an understanding between all of us. So there's no question. Right. I don't want to be fundraising and you to not know what I'm doing. This is what I've done for a long time. I don't want to see us doing something that is not comfortable I want you to be able to say the same thing. And we are the arm for you. So we are the nonprofit arm, and we expect, we want to make sure we're all doing things that are in alignment.
Very good.
Thank you, Maria. It's very good.
Thank you. Any other questions? I'm happy to answer anything else. If anything comes up, you can shoot me an email too.
How many members were you able to generate during the co-side gifts?
We had 46, I believe. Some of them were renewing members, some of them had already given, but I believe it was 46 people made gifts that day.
Okay.
So it was good. It was really, some gave more than 25, some, it was very positive. Sent a message afterwards, and we're actually planning special messaging now for that group that just joined. And then we're actually going to start even more communication with our membership. And like I was saying, we're re-envisioning our virtual events so that it's bringing in and really engaging with our membership, so that we're really building a base for our community.
Are you sending out any statements I'm a member, but it was last year. and I haven't renewed my membership. So is there a reminder that went out that I missed?
There will be soon.
Okay.
Thank you
Good.
for
I
asking
wanna
that
hear
question, Pat. I love it.
Yes.
Yes,
good.
we are thinking
Thank
about it.
you.
We actually, Charles and I were talking about it yesterday. So yes.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Thank you.
So now it's time for Eddie.
Okay.
Charizard, sorry, Eddie. Charizard's raising her hand.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Jonathan.
You're on, Charizard.
Okay, hi. I'm sorry. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, sorry. I was trying to talk. Sorry about, yes, I just want to clarify on the Raleigh Right. Last year, we had $1,000 because $1,000 was donated and specifically allocated for that. So, and you know what, Matthew, if we could ask the city attorney, when we formed the group, actually because of the IRS, we had to clearly define our relationship with the city. So unfortunately, you know, Paulette, there is, maybe your group doesn't know the institutional knowledge of it, but the city attorney does, and there's city paperwork. So we can ask the city attorney to actually pull it up because we have all that in filings. And actually, I could probably find it in my filings too. The city had to help us to form this nonprofit. And Naomi was the one that actually signed off on it, and the whole city council. So it's definitely information with the city. Now we are setting policy right now for distributions, like when we do a concert in the park, fundraiser or something, how does that money get allocated? So we need general fund money, we need reserves, and you know, and then it goes to our projects. You know, we're going to do 2 projects. So you know, one project we're doing the pool, and then maybe a project is Carter Park, or you know, you guys are putting together, you know, like the playground. You know, can we just, you know, help put together the playground? You raise 50% of the money, maybe we can help with the other 50%. You know, so but no one's had a conversation with us regarding any kind of policy for Raleigh Right. Now, you know, definitely we can push Raleigh Right and have that go through us for it to be an, you know, write-off for people to donate. But, you know, we're more than happy to have that be a part of our, you know, advertising and fundraising for it. But, you know, to constantly really, I mean, it's the paperwork's there in the city. And, you know, I'm sure I can find it in my, you know, inbox somewhere too.
Sherzad, are you referring to like the bylaws that were
the formation paperwork of the
entity? I've been able to track that down, not through the city's records, but just other records. And I think what we're talking about is in much more detail than what's the bylaws are very general. I think we're looking for a much greater detail. And I think as Maria said, an MOU is the perfect.
Right, exactly. And we drafted one MOU, which had something else. And so right now with the whole COVID and change of situation, then Maria drafted another one that she's going to present to you that will be more of a general relationship, because we like to really define it too, because, you know, if, you know, as, you know, people change, we have something set in place.
Right.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Eddie Beal.
My turn.
Eddie. Yay.
Yay. Well, first, let me say it's really great to see everybody again. Maria, I've spoken with you over email. It's great to actually meet you virtually. I know we haven't had a meeting in a few months, so we wanted to fill you in on what's been happening with the Recreation Department. So I'll just go back to the beginning, to March. middle of March, Nicolette and Pringle, our recreation leader, and myself attended the annual California Parks and Recreation Society conference in Long Beach. And when we came back, we had entered the shelter in place. Pretty difficult for us, a little tough. We came back and had to make some difficult phone calls, canceling most of our services and functions that we had scheduled. This meant canceling our upcoming scheduled classes and programs, our rentals and reservations, and special event permits that were issued by the city for events that then at that point were unable to meet the criteria for essential services and functions. And we continue to do that month by month now. It was a tough time. And as one of like the main elements of the shelter in place order was for individuals to stay home and keep their distance from other folks and no gathering of large groups. This made it really difficult for us who work in parks and recreation to do what we do, because we deal in people, we deal in community. So we had to adapt. Like Matthew touched on a little bit ago, we launched our virtual recreation website where folks from the community could still participate in various forms of virtual recreation. They can find ideas, fun things they can do from home with their family, their friends, by themselves, including some free online classes hosted by our own departments, contracted instructors. And as a staff throughout the city was sheltering in place, working remotely, we did continue to come in to work for essential functions and programs. And again, like Matthew had touched on earlier, one of these programs was is the Second Harvest food distribution. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with it, but for the last several years, the city's been a partner in this event with the school district. And what we would do is we would provide the facility for the distribution to take place. In early March, even before the pandemic broke, due to their own budget cuts, the school district had to end their role as the lead organization in that program. And at which point the city took over the program, which is great. It was awesome. It was kind of running for one period during February, and then I brought it up to Matthew, and we had made the decision that the city should take it up since there was no other organization to do so. So we took it over. Weeks later, after the shelter in place had gone into effect, it was apparent there were a lot of families in the community that were facing hardships. And we asked Second Harvest if it would be possible for us to do the free food distribution every week rather than just once a month. And they actually got a lot of requests from other cities of the same request. And we were approved for increase in services. And now the Recreation Department, along with other city staff, one of which is here today, Mr. Jonathan Broisman, he has actually been at the food distribution almost every week. He is the Robin to my Batman.
Thanks,
yes,
Eddie.
Jonathan, I'm Batman, but you're Robin. That's good too. And we appreciate his help, and Victor and Karen and all the other staff that come week in and week out to help us run that program. It's such a great thing to be able to be a part of, and definitely well received by the community. We do that every Thursday from 3 to 5 at the community center, and we serve about 290 families a week. So it's well attended for sure. If you can imagine, in a 2-hour period, at least one individual that represents an entire family will come and pick up food. So
Eddie, I'm sorry, I missed something. Who was doing it before?
Well, so it was a partnership that we entered with the school district. So essentially, the school district were the lead on the event. So they were basically the signer, the ones responsible for the event. Us as a partner, our part was that we would provide them a facility for the distribution to take place.
And who's providing the food?
Second Harvest.
That's Second Harvest.
Oh, Second Harvest. Okay. All right.
Yeah. And so again, just want to say it, Jonathan, you're a rock star. We love going there and participating in the event, and a lot of staff that work remotely for the most part, the entire week. They look forward to coming out to this event. It allows them to help the community and see their fellow coworkers. So it's a pretty cool thing.
And Eddie, you had some numbers on how many families have been fed through this program just in the last 3 months, right?
If I would have thought to bring them, yes, I would have them right here, but we can do some simple math real quick. So we do 290 families a week. If I was good with math, I could pop that answer out right now, but I'll multiply that times 4. That's 1,160 families a month that we serve through the program. So it's been a really humbling experience to be part of it. I'm super glad that Matthew made the move for us to pick it up and take over the event. And we're not really reliant on volunteers because we do have staff that are willing to come out and participate and contribute in the event. So it's basically staff run, with the exception of maybe one of the school district's volunteers that still continues to come and help out. But for the most part, it's a city run project now. In April, with all the shelter in place restrictions, Matthew and Bob had created a community ambassador role. That was for the recreation staff to assume during their shifts. And the purpose of this role was to have city staff out in the community to monitor city parks, the trails, the beaches, to help encourage compliance with the current shelter in place orders and social distancing, to provide informational flyers that list the health orders and restrictions, and also to provide general information and to act as an extra set of eyes out in the community to help to identify non-permitted work and activities. And we've really enjoyed that opportunity to go out and meet with community members we might not typically get to interact with, and doing our part to help keep the community safe. And for the most part, we've been met with a lot of gratitude and appreciation from the people we come in contact with. And obviously this role will be less necessary as the restrictions loosen and we begin to kind of reintroduce our recreation programs again. And speaking to the reopening of recreation, we're currently in phase 2 of the county's reopening for lower risk workplaces, where some summer programs and camps are with adaptations are permitted. We did initially have 4 camps scheduled this summer. 2 of them were canceled. They actually were set to start before camps were even allowed in the current phase. So it leaves us with 2 camps that we could potentially hold this summer. One that's set to begin in July had to cancel their program. They weren't very confident that they could adhere to the strict procedures and practices that are required by the health order, which is disappointing, but it's understandable. Every week I meet with the other San Mateo County recreation administrators, and it's our hope that we're close to the end of the second phase of the reopening process and more near to the start of the third, where higher risk environments with adaptations and limits on size can start to reopen, kind of like gyms and hair salons and movie theaters and sports without live audiences. And this is the portion of the reopening process that we believe we can start to reopen our classes and programs, again, of course, with adaptations. There are a few events that wouldn't be permitted in the third phase of the reopening process that pertain to us, and that would be the live music. So Concerts in the Park, Summer's End Music Festival, and potentially the adult softball leagues. Not sure if those will be approved by the time that they're scheduled to happen, but they haven't been officially canceled yet. So that's probably something that we'll need to discuss at some point, as they're all scheduled in August and Summer's End in September. So maybe at a later point, the commission, we can all decide what to do with those, how to move forward. Right now, we're planning on holding the programs, the recreation classes that can operate within the county health department's guidelines and are comfortable with hosting them outdoors to do so at Smith Fields in July. And hopefully at that point, Smith Fields will be reopened and until the third phase of the reopening process allows indoor recreation. And those classes now that can't be staged outside, we're working with currently to try to offer them on a paying basis via Zoom. So that's kind of where we are with recreation. I know there's a lot of uncertainty in that, and we don't know a lot of dates and exacts, but we're hopeful, and we still see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, if I could add a couple of things. I think one of the biggest things that has happened during this period is because of the budget constraints that the city's under. I mentioned that we've let 6 permanent staff go, one of those, or 6 positions go, including 5 permanent staff. One of those was one of our recreation leader positions, and so we lost Matt.
Really like Matt. I'm sorry to see him go.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Really liked him.
Yeah, and I believe, Eddie, he continues to come and help with the food distribution. Is that correct? I mean, that's the kind of person he is.
He does. He does.
We're really disappointed to lose him, and our hope is somehow that if and when we can fill that position again, that he's still around and interested in participating. The other thing we had to do was, even though they haven't been removed from the city's payroll, we're not able to schedule any hours for any of our building attendants. So our recreation department basically has been cut in half from a manpower standpoint. And that's going to make it difficult moving forward as we start to reopen. You know, we've been a community that's been committed to recreation programming. And as things start to reopen, not only are we down to 2 permanent staff, but, you know, as you know, some staff is committed to, and other staff are still discussing furloughs. And so that'll limit how many hours we have staff in our facilities. One of the things we're working on is adopting in our fees the ability to charge rentals for staff time, and then we can bring back some of our building attendants to staff things on weekends and evenings. And so that's something we're hopeful for. And then again, as gatherings, larger gatherings start to move forward, we'll be looking at our rental structure. As you know, it's highly subsidized right now, especially compared to other cities. And I think the time is right to really explore more of a cost recovery approach. You know, recreation is always subsidized. It's a quality of life issue, and so you have to spend some of the general fund on it. But we're going to be looking at opportunities to recover more of our costs and help this department be more, you know, resilient in the future, so that we have revenues that cover our costs, and when the general fund takes a hit, we don't have to sacrifice some of our staff time here. So that's been really hard. Eddie and Nicolette have worked really hard to maintain the status quo as much as possible. They've also, as I mentioned, have really stepped up to help other departments during this time, especially in areas of communication and coordination of some of the activities that are still happening, like blood drives and food drives and the census event we have this week. So it's this commission, I think, as things start to reopen, is going to play a really important role in helping us figure out the best way to continue to serve our community with the constrained resources that we will likely have for the foreseeable future.
Okay, so let me jump in as a few comments or a few questions. One is, you know, I was reading the various risk factors, like what's the risky, you know, and tennis is one of the lowest risk. I don't know where you got to. I know you sat down and talked with Sean about, you know, the school's facilities, but there's something that to me seems like, you know, okay, low risk. Let's, why wouldn't we explore something like that in terms of having a tennis, you know, tennis lessons as part of something that we can do in this time period.
Agreed. And yeah, we were in very active discussions with the school district for the use of some of their facilities. Where we landed initially, because of the transition of after-school sports to the Boys and Girls Club, is really focusing on the high school property. And of course, tennis courts are a big part of that. Unfortunately, during this time period, the school district has completely closed all of its facilities. We do have a 2x2 meeting, which is a periodic meeting we have with the school board and the superintendent, and that is coming up next month. And so this will be an item on that agenda to talk about some more. So hopefully we can get into an agreement to use some of their facilities, including the tennis courts at the high school. And potentially, pickleball could also take place up there. Because pickleball, I would assume, falls in the same risk category as tennis. Yeah. But here we use indoor facilities which aren't allowed.
Right.
So.
Right. Okay, so that's good. So can we talk about the 4th?
Yeah, Eddie mentioned the cancellation of events and the downtown, the Main Street Beautification Committee. They're the ones that put on, in conjunction with the Chamber, the 4th of July parade, the Night of Lights event, the Pumpkin Festival, and I think you've all heard that they've canceled the 4th of July parade. I mean, I think that was obvious to everybody, but they've officially canceled the Pumpkin Festival, which the impacts to this community are going to be broad because, that's one of the biggest events that we have here. It's huge for our businesses. It's bigger for, I think, for our nonprofits who raise most of their funds during that weekend. And so we're in discussions with that group on ways that we can create virtual events or other things to backfill some of that. As far as the 4th of July goes, I'm sure, Paulette, you've got some ideas, but I'll share what we've already been working on, and Eddie might be able to fill in more. I don't know if there's been a meeting yet. We met with Crystalline last week from the Chamber, and she's already developed kind of a plan for a virtual 4th of July event, and we've agreed to work with her on it. Eddie, has she reached out to you on that yet?
No, not since our last meeting.
Okay, so probably I would suspect by the end of this week you'll hear from her. Just some of the things that they're thinking about is maybe some local bands playing in private facilities, but then live streaming it throughout the day so that people can all be listening to the same music. If they're having a party in their front yard or whatever, that they can have this event showing. We kind of have imagined it almost like the New Year's Rockin' Live or one of those things where you have a host and then you bounce around to different, and then she wants to sponsor a home-based float or home-based parade where people decorate their homes as like a float. And then a group could go around and judge them, and there could be, filming those as part of the broadcast, and then there'd be awards. So really creative ideas. And I know when Eddie gets tied in with Crystalline, the ideas are just going to get out of control. That's Eddie.
God, yeah.
But those are some of the ideas. Were there other ideas you wanted to share tonight?
Well, the decoration thing was one of the things I came across because I, just started looking up what other places might be doing, what creative ideas there might be out there for celebrating in this unprecedented time. So the decorating, now I like this thing that I came across because they had categories for decoration. And, go around judging winners of, let's say, the most patriotic one, let's say the funniest one. Let's see, what was it? See if I can find. Best decorated neighborhood, best decorated business and home, most patriotic residence or business, most outstanding decorations, and best inspiring message, and finally, a neighborhood spirit. So those are like just some ideas, but it would be good to have themes, that people can shoot for in their decoration if they're going after the most patriotic or they're going after the most decorative or neighborhood spirit or message that they want to. So each winners of each category will receive a prize, but details are okay. So if we can find a prize, or the businesses maybe to do some kind of prize, or something that that's not going to be ridiculously expensive, but something nominal that can be given out for best this or that, I think would be good. The other thought I had is if we're going to do some kind of live streaming, I was thinking of either getting some kids or something to take portions of the Declaration of Independence and do like dramatic reading of their portion of the Declaration of Independence, because especially at this time, given what we are going through, those words are more important than ever. So I just thought that would be a potentially good idea.
Great. Thoughts from other commissioners? Eddie's going to take great notes because he's going to be meeting with Crystalline. What else?
Well, one of the things that Redwood City is doing is a chalk festival, which we did every 4th of July. And so I was thinking about that downtown. And if in fact we ever have the opportunity to close the street from, Mills down to Miramontes, so that, and then have the chalk available and have people just draw on the street. I mean, it was amazing. They had some professional artists actually doing work, but we did it on Courthouse Square. So, but then it extended into the street, the sidewalk across. We had these walls that were used, and they just came in perfect timing, where people just wrote little things on the wall, and there wasn't a space left at the end of the day, and everybody was so happy. And that's the thing I want to do. I want to bring happiness. This has been just an unbelievable experience that we're going through, and to bring some joy. And I know the 4th of July parade here, I was planning a party and having everybody coming over. And, I knew it had to happen. We can't have this disease going on and on. But anyway, it's something to think about. People could wear a mask and still, do chalk art. So anyway, we could look into that.
Great. I remember seeing that when I was working in Redwood City. It was beautiful stuff.
Yes. And, the other thing too is, because we have, people will be downtown, the takeout orders would work really well. And, have lunch and just put a blanket down on the sidewalk. And, it was really good Sunday to see people downtown, because it was so different, because I do love that walk. And, you had to kind of walk around people, and it was a good feeling. So
yeah,
we'll come up with some ideas.
Yeah, and I will say that sounds like something for a little bit farther down in the health orders. The health orders are really clear that we can't do anything with those gatherings.
And we don't want to encourage. We don't want to encourage group gathering.
Yeah, and now the numbers are going up, because now it's 10 people, then it's 50. So it's just it's an activity. Yeah. Really, yeah. It's a kind of a fun thing, because even the children love it, but the parents who really kind of haven't done it in a long time have that opportunity to get back to some basic fun. So everything I've heard tonight has been really, really, it's really exciting. And, I'm so proud that I live here. Everything's moving forward in such a really just a satisfying way. Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you. Okay. Well, obviously, if you guys come up with other ideas, I think there's a couple weeks here to plan that event. And obviously, we'd love to hear from all of you with your different ideas. A couple other things that kind of came from that discussion I wanted to share. As Eddie mentioned, things don't look good for music in the park. And given the fact that the Pumpkin Festival has been canceled, the Summer's End Music Fest, I think we're not ready to give up yet, at least on the Summer's End event. But I think over the next month, we'll have to make those decisions. And we'll keep you posted as we kind of figure that out.
Yeah, it's really discouraging to see that California is one of the states, not like Arizona, Texas, and some of the others, where it's really going up significantly, their COVID-19 rate. But California is one of the states where it's still going, where there's still it's still an uptick rather than either leveling out or in some places where it's just really down. I mean, I just read that one of my favorite places that I go to a lot, like Vancouver Island in British Columbia, they just declared it COVID-19 free. There's just been no cases, now happening. Well, unfortunately, that's not our situation. And we still have to be super on guard.
Yep. You mentioned under the Chalk Festival idea and closing streets. One of the things that we're working on with the Chamber and the Downtown Association is with outdoor eating allowed now for the restaurants. Half Moon Bay struggles with that because we have really narrow sidewalks and Main Street. We've talked to folks about doing like parklets in front of take a couple parking spaces, but the street is so crowned that only the middle of the street is really appropriate for tables. And we've held some meetings with the businesses, and it doesn't sound like there's a lot of support to close Main Street because it's also a thoroughfare here as opposed to other cities where their Main Street might just be a business district. But there's been a lot of support for the idea of closing down some side streets. So over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be continuing to meet with the businesses and talk to the restaurants. And the concept we're exploring is closing portions of some of the streets that are perpendicular to Main Street and front Main Street, and creating almost like food courts where there could be some ambiance, some plants and some lights and garbage cans, and then very well distanced tables. And the restaurants and the businesses would make sure that they stay clean and maintained, and create a place that when people come downtown to buy their food, their takeout food, they actually have a place to go and eat it. We're actually going to be putting some of the tables back at Mac Dutra shortly. And start promote, again, very small numbers and very well distanced. And we're trying to find ways to make sure people can't move the tables because people love to drag them together and make big crowds. But that's something hopefully you'll see over the coming weeks as something we're going to try with the businesses. The retail businesses are very supportive of it because if people come and they stay and eat, then they'll be more likely to start coming into the stores, which are also reopening right now. So, we're excited at some new things that could be happening. And some of these ideas I love because they're things that we've talked about before and didn't get any traction. Now, out of necessity, we have to do them. I think people will see that they work and they'll be more open to those types of ideas as a more permanent thing that we do. So we're excited to see some of that stuff moving forward as well.
Yeah, I'm excited about that too. We need to get life. It's like getting life back into, our town, our downtown area for sure.
Yeah. Do we have recordings of any of the bands that we've had in the past?
You mean live from our events?
Yeah. Do we have any?
No, and this is where again, this is where it's too bad, but we won't let that happen again. Is that that PCT did not, video our Summer's End concerts, so that this would have been a great time to just roll the tape, play our concerts, and we make sure that has to happen in the future.
I nominate Eddie to just reenact all the performances.
You could do it. You could do the jam.
He could. Yeah. That's the funny thing. He's like, we're laughing, and he's like, yeah, I can. I know the words.
I have some costumes. It could work. Well, so one of our ideas was, and I mentioned to Matthew, I didn't get a chance to mention it when we were talking to Chrislyn, but we contracted 4 really great groups for the concerts in the park. And they could be, candidates for this 4th of July thing where we maybe have them come to the community center where we already have the PCTV live streaming equipment. And instead of canceling their contract for Punch in the Park, maybe they are the bands that perform in, certain segments. Just an idea. And we do on Facebook have some video of the performances from last year, but nothing really great. And I'm not dancing in them, so I don't know if anyone will care.
Oh, right. No. Well, and then a lot of these groups too, they have CDs, they have their music. So I love that for the food court idea on a street, this one of the side streets. And I think that would be just a fun thing to have, yeah, exciting. So what's next?
So for future items preview, we felt like having this special meeting was important. It's been a long time since we've been together, and we're just glad to see everybody's faces and hear from everybody. It's been awesome to see how everybody's doing. We're glad that Paulette is recovering, and hopefully we'll see her up on her feet again soon. And then Eva is going to be off of her feet soon. So we're excited to see a new member of the family here. But we haven't really looked at what could be on a future meeting. So I think my first question would be, do we want to hold our regular meeting in July? So that'd be in 6 weeks from now.
I think it would be nice to have an update at that point. Feel like at least we're feeling connected.
Yeah,
I agree.
So we'll plan on that. So if you wouldn't mind, if there's things you want to talk about specifically, ideas that you have, shoot them over to Jonathan and we'll add them to the agenda. Obviously, we'll have the friends come and join us. And at that point, we'll have met with them at their regular meeting as well. And I think the MOU is something we can talk in more detail about. I do know one of the things we'll bring forward at our next meeting is some updates to our park and beach regulations. Some are just updates we need to make, and others are things that we've discovered through this process of dealing with COVID that really need to change. And so John is actually leading the charge on that. And we'll bring those to you for review at some point in the near future. And then, like I mentioned, fees are another thing I think we're going to want to be looking at pretty soon. I think it'll help to bring our rec department back stronger and make it more resilient. And again, hopefully sooner than later, we can get back to full staff and ideally be in time to get Matt back. So,
yes.
Are there any nonprofits in the community that you think would, especially given where we're at right now and the things that we're experiencing, you think it'd be important to talk with and have participate in this meeting next month? The Boys and Girls Club is one that comes to my mind because they're going to be taking over after school sports for the school district. And it'd be interesting to know how that's going to happen and how we could work with them on that.
The school district itself, I don't know what's going on with that, but I was just reading San Rafael, the school district, just slashed a whole bunch of jobs, and so it's kind of important to know what is going on with our school district, the health of it, and what they're planning for opening, and their after school activities and stuff like that, and how, if anything, we can work together, so that's an important, the whole kid thing is an important thing of like where are things going, with all those different entities that are involved, like Boys and Girls Club, the school district, us. Is where is this heading? And of course, by in July, we'll see where we are with a COVID-19 update in terms of how things are going, what phase we're in, where things look like they're heading. I mean, this is obviously a constantly changing situation, as we know. literally day by day, let alone month by month. So,
Yeah.
Hopefully we've got some programs going at that point, but that's up to the county. That's really for the county to decide.
yeah.
Matt,
Yes,
I just want to add CFOG's progress. So we were able to raise $4,000 during the COSI Give, and definitely get a lot of community awareness and people signing up for our e-newsletter. We are sending a monthly e-newsletter to people that have signed up, and also City Council met and have committed $20,000. So right now, we've raised a total of $44,000, ready to start the infrastructure of building the community garden.
That's awesome.
Exciting. Yeah. Very
what percentage is going to the Raleigh Wright Scholarship Fund, Eva? Just joking. Just
nice
joking.
try.
Nice try. Yeah. How much do we have in it now?
I want to say it's between $3,000 and $4,000, which seems like not a lot of money, but until this year, the most we ever had in it was like $1,500. So it's
it's
better than I've ever seen.
I suspect we'll have more demand on it than ever when we do get to bring our rec programs back, because there's so many families out there that are going to be struggling, and it'll be nice to have.
Is that something that can be applied to the camp situation, or
any of our programs? Those funds can be used to pay for any of our programs. So
good.
I think we'll probably want to do a little bit of marketing when things reopen as well, because this is an opportunity for families to still get some activities happening, but not have that stress of their income where they're at right now. So
right.
Well, something also to think about is to have a joint fundraising event with the Friends and with the Commission specifically for Raleigh Wright.
I like that idea, though. I would also pursue that idea. I really like that Marla mentioned, I think it was her, about providing the other 50% finances for doing the Frenchman's Creek thing and finishing that off, given the fact that we have the playground equipment. I hate for it just to be sitting there rotting away.
And one of the things we didn't mention, the Carter Park project, I'll give a quick update on that. So we were kind of in the final home stretch of finalizing the design for that project. The plan was for the design, all the plans to be done in this fiscal year, so by the end of June. And that way, our expenditures towards it would stop until funds had been raised, grants had been obtained to pay for that project. Unfortunately, the part of the process we were in for that design required public meetings, community outreach, there's the environmental, all that. And so all of that has been put on hold. And we were talking about it in the last couple of days, and I think it'll probably resume in like August. And hopefully that design will be done by the end of this calendar year. But I think it's fair to say that it's probably going to be a while before we're able to raise big money for a big project like that. And so maybe in the meantime, some of the focus for fundraising could shift towards Frenchman's Creek. John, do you know how much the construction side of it remains?
It's about 50,000.
Okay.
So maybe that's something we can talk about on July 1st.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Obviously the Frenchman's Creek community would appreciate it. It's another park that would be available to the community, and $50,000 is not a small lift, but it's not insurmountable either. So.
Right.
Yeah. All right, great.
I would like to recommend also, I mean, I like the idea very much of having Boys and Girls Club come again. And also there's a new head of school at Seacrest.
Yeah.
So it might be great to invite that person to come and to start that partnership.
And Colleen Latier, our communications manager, has some very, very close personal connection to that person. I don't remember exactly what it was. It might be like her best friend from childhood or something, but she was like, what a small world we live in, that 2 kids from Cupertino are now like heavily involved on the coast side.
Oh, this is good.
Yes.
Starts on June 15th, so she'll be here.
Okay, yeah.
Very good.
Reach out to her. Okay, does anybody else have anything to add tonight?
I guess I just wanted to plug for the for testing and tracing. That's how we're going to get back to normal. So everybody go get your COVID test for free over at Cunha. Schedule it ahead.
I've got an appointment tomorrow.
I had it today.
Yay!
Gotta go.
Yep.
Yeah, so if you can, tomorrow is the last day for this round. There will be testing on Saturday for farm workers and their families.
Yes.
So if you know any farm workers, let them know.
Yes.
Oh, good.
And it's a little bit easier. It's not through the project baseline. So it's a lot easier for people to register for that. They just call Coastside Hope or call us and registered. And then the plan right now is for the county to bring this project baseline back in 2 weeks. So we'll keep everybody posted as those plans move forward. I think it's been successful. They've basically filled every slot every single day. So
very well done. 400 people.
Yeah. So
they've
it's
tested
1,600 people over
1
2
day.
weeks.
Yeah, 400. Yeah. And it's very, very well done. Very, very impressive.
Good.
It's great.
Maybe because it was the county. My county.
Actually, Victor's had a really active role in helping make that happen.
Oh, so good. Good. Yeah, they're very due diligent. That's for sure. Yep.
Good seeing you all.
Yes, thank you.
John, take care.
Everybody is, obviously this is a tough time, but recreation brings people together and that's exactly what we need. So our job is more important than ever right now. So, all right,
Remember to smile, everyone.
We'll see you in July.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Take care, everyone. Stay safe.
Be well. Take care of yourself, Missy.